Cody, take us away.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Cody. Been super bored during the last couple weeks, as I'm sure all of you guys have also been pretty bored. And I ended up getting masterclass as a thing to kind of keep me engaged with some kind of learning, and is actually kind of where I got this kind of idea of this topic to present today. So thank you to masterclass for that. But one thing that I've kind of struggled with, and it's kind of odd because I've never really been someone to struggle with this over the last year, is to kind of find common ground with some of the people that I teach. And for the most part, I'm really good at like creating rapport and kind of building relationships with some of my clients and pretty much all my clients. But there's those people every now and then that we teach that I feel it's just really difficult to actually kind of connect with, either by what they do or kind of their hobbies that they enjoy outside of snowboarding. It's just something that like it might be difficult for me to actually connect with them. And so when I actually kind of came across this masterclass where it kind of had that idea of how we can build rapport with those people, I thought it was super awesome. And this was actually something that they did within like hostage negotiations, how they built rapport with people who are taking people hostage, which is people who obviously don't want to really talk to you at any point in time. They want to try and keep as little information out there as possible. They want to just try and get in and get out, and be able to just kind of do what they're trying to get out of everything. So the idea behind it is mirroring and labeling. Mirroring in particular is just the act of repeating the last 1 to 3 words that the people say, with more of an upward inflection. It kind of reminds me of like that Mean Girls kind of idea where just like everything ends in a question and you're not really sure what you're saying. But the idea behind it is that when you do that, you show that curiosity kind of coming out. And most of the time when people have that curiosity kind of coming out, they're going to want to continue to talk about whatever they're talking about. And this is something that I think it feels super awkward at first. I tried this on one of my friends the other day, and it felt really, really awkward the first couple times that I did it. But the more I did it, the more it just seemed kind of genuine. Like the first time that I did it, I felt like I was just being kind of an ass and just kind of being condescending the entire time. But the more that I do it, the more it actually seems like I'm being just a genuine person and just being really just kind of curious about what they're actually saying. And the nice thing is that when I actually did that, thanks, Conrad. I know I'm an ass. Oh, sorry. But it made it to where they actually kept talking about what they were talking about. And the nice thing about when they kind of start opening up about what they enjoy, or kind of going into a little bit more depth about what they're talking about, they start to kind of reveal some stuff about themselves. And that's where the labeling idea comes in. And just a label in general for this particular idea is just putting a personality trait to them. And so I actually have a video that I want to kind of show of like a real demonstration of this. And it came from the masterclass. So I'm going to share this real quick. It's only a couple minutes long, but I'm not really worried about what actually comes out on the video, but as long as you guys can hear it. If there's ever a point in time where you guys can't hear what's going on, just let me know and I can stop and just kind of tell you guys exactly how it goes. But let me start screen sharing real quick.
What are you passionate about?
Escape room games.
What is it about escape room games that makes you passionate?
They are so fun to do with friends, and they're immersive. It's like such an immersive experience, and it challenges your mind.
It challenges your mind?
Yeah. Because when you go in, if you know what an escape room is, you have 60 minutes to get out, right? And so, there's a series of different puzzles that you have to solve in order to get out.
Sounds like you like mental challenges.
Yeah, I do. I do when it comes to that it's like puzzles and fun, and then you're kind of cooperating and doing them together. and you're also in this like immersive experience. So it's like as if you're in the mystery movie, or if you're in the play, you're like part of the play.
Sounds like you like drama.
I do like drama. I guess I like the suspense of it. I guess maybe I do like drama.
But it also sounds like you really like people.
I do. I like to spend time with my friends, and I like working together with them in escape rooms. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about them is that if you have someone who's never done one before, and then they come with your group, you're like, this is going to be so fun for you. And you try to make it the best experience for that person so that they enjoy them too.
Sound like you really like to help people.
I guess so. I never really thought about it like that, but I guess I do. Like to help. And I don't,
Sounds like
not like I'm a terrible person who's so selfish, but
you sound like a really loyal person too.
Oh, that's nice to say. I think people my friends do say that about me too. That that I'm loyal, I guess. But I'm lucky in that the people that I'm friends with are nice people and good people, and I feel like my friends, like I would do anything for them, but they would also do anything for me.
You sound drawn to good people.
Yeah, I hope so. And hopefully good people are drawn to me too.
So it sounds like you just really enjoy bringing out the best in others.
I like to think, yeah, that is fun.
All right, so
Cool. So just a really quick kind of 2-3 minute conversation that they had there, where the interviewer really didn't share any information about himself whatsoever. He was literally able to just have that other person that he wanted to build a rapport with kind of talk, and then kind of build a little bit of rapport through kind of more of the labeling side. And every single time that he did kind of a label, he said, like, it sounds like this. And that right there, I think, is a super important thing, that we're not necessarily just judging them right away. And it's like, oh, then you really like people. Making it be like, hey, it sounds like you like this, shows still that curiosity, and it kind of gets them to keep thinking and talking about it. But that right there, I think, is a very interesting thing that I think that we can absolutely bring into snowboarding. And I was actually going to open it up to you guys to see what you guys think about this idea of using mirroring and labeling to help build rapport with either clients that you have no common ground with, or even clients that just don't really like to open up to you. When I was kind of growing up in retail, my manager once told me that the best way to build rapport with people is to know a little bit about everything. So that way you can find common ground with everyone. But there's been clients that I've had where I have no idea what they do or like what they like outside of snowboarding, because I just have never done it before. I mean, if someone's really talked about how they like polo, like I don't know anything about polo. And so just constantly asking questions and trying to fake it just seems really disingenuous, where I feel like this mirroring and labeling thing we can kind of bring into the snow sports industry and feel more genuine about it. So I wanted to kind of open it up to you guys and see what you guys think about this idea, and if you guys think that it's a pretty good way to kind of build rapport with clients in the snow sports industry.
All right, if anybody's got any questions or wants to say anything, just put a hand up. Yo, Tony.
Yeah. I guess I can see it on both sides of the coin, so to speak. So like, one, anytime you label somebody, you're making a judgment call about them, and that could be intrusive, or like kind of like, whoa, dude, you don't even know me, homie. You just assume that because of what I said. Or it could be a good on the other side, where like, hey, it's kind of like active listening. Like, hey, I'm trying to get an idea of who you are, and I'm telling you who I think you are now. If that's not right, that's okay, but that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. So it actually adds some clarity to it on that side of things as well. So I can see it on both sides. I'd like to maybe experiment with it and see how it works with different audiences as well, like kids to adults and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this would definitely be something that we wouldn't be able to do with kind of that pre-operational stage of kids, or even some of the concrete operational we might not really be able to get into. But I think that once they get, especially towards that formal operational or even kind of farther into that concrete operational stage, I think that kids would be able to open up a little bit more when we have that kind of curiosity thing. But yeah, overall, the idea with that mirroring is just to have them continue to talk and using that information through active listening to kind of make some of those calls about their personality. And it's definitely more of that active listening kind of thing. But then just try to throw it out there where it's like, yeah, it sounds like this is kind of the person that you are.
Lynn?
So Cody, I disagree with that for kids. In Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, which the masterclass is from, he talks about when you talk to small children, maybe 3 or 4 years old, and he'll say, it seems like you're upset that you didn't get a cupcake. And that's labeling. And that's super effective for kids that young.
No, yeah, I think that the labeling part will definitely be effective when it comes to something like that. But when it comes to like building like a rapport from the beginning, where it's like we're just trying to get information about who they are and kind of building that trust, it might not be quite as effective for someone who might be in that 3 to 4 age group. Like if I were to say, well, it sounds like you're a really good sharer, I don't think that they're going to necessarily be like, oh yeah, I'm a really good sharer, and that's exactly who I am, and that's who I'm proud to be in a way, you know?
But what if you said, it sounds like you really want to learn to snowboard?
Yeah, then I definitely think that we can get some of their desires out there for sure. But this is definitely something that I haven't experimented enough with that 3 to 4 age group or that kind of pre-operational stage or anything like that. So I would have to kind of play with it a little bit more with those kind of younger kids. So far, I've only done it with kind of that older people kind of age group, like 18 and above.
All right. Has anybody got any? Oh, Lynn, you want to go again? Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I redirect to Conrad though? So Conrad and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, and about how when he leads CS1 exams, he uses mirroring to help him get more information out of the candidates. Conrad, do you remember what we were talking about that day?
Yes.
Do you mind sharing what you do to mirror in your CS1 exams? I think it'd be more effective coming from you than coming from me, since you're right here.
I can't even remember what I said.
We're talking have information, but they're not saying all the information they know, and how you're repeating kind of.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation because it was the whole how much do you lead conversation of like telling the information back to the person they just told you, but adding that inflection like you were saying, Cody. And by adding that inflection, are you then like opening the door too much? And at the CS1 level, I would argue that you can open the door for them to give you more information, and that's great and that's fine. And we were having a conversation about at higher levels whether it would be appropriate or not, but that was our conversation. Did anybody have any other points? Maybe any personal experience of using it themselves?
Or if you guys have like another way that you guys use to help build a rapport with clients that might be a little bit more difficult, or you just struggle to connect with, any ways that you guys find.
Demons, then Corey.
Yeah, I really like the mirroring. I never thought about it as like repeating the last 1 to 3 words. I believe I like had this concept introduced to me by Brennan Metzler a long time ago about building rapport. And one of the ways that he mirrors is physically mirroring. So if somebody's standing with their hands on their hips, or they're like hold their hand on their head in a certain way, you can mirror that way. And then the one that stuck with me that I've always had is like, if you're a super extroverted person and you have a super introverted person and you come at them from here, you're not gonna, you need to pace yourself in order to build that rapport, and like come in quiet, soft-spoken, and reserve a little bit of your energy for after you've built that rapport. And you can actually get somebody who starts here and you can start to bring them up. Kind of like that, like analogy of like the frog in boiling water. It doesn't know it's in there if you start cold and heat it back up. I really have had success with that.
Well, Corey?
Okay, before I jump into what I wanted to say, I have a question. Is labeling and mirroring, are those the same thing, or are they slightly different things? Because I heard both come up, and I feel like mirroring is when you kind of repeat back to the person, and I feel like labeling is when you take the information you just got and give it a label. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much the idea of it. So the mirroring is just to get them to kind of keep talking, and then the labeling is through active listening, be able to like put like a personality trait to what
Okay.
they said. So like it seems like you're drawn to good people is one of the labels that they had as an example.
Okay, cool. So I was going to say I really like this tactic of getting to know someone or build rapport with someone, because sometimes I feel like people just listen and they don't really hear what's going on. So I think what this does is it engages yourself in the conversation, so that you well, obviously you're gathering more information, but it makes the other person feel like you are actively listening and actually care, which is going to make them want to open up more and tell them, or have them tell you more about themselves. So I like the whole idea of it. I've never really thought of it, but I do like it. I took down some good notes.
Dana.
So when I was working in New Zealand, the first season I worked there, we had to go to this seminar before we started working, and this was for Tura. Yeah, so they had this specialist come in who actually, Cody, spoke a lot about what you're saying, and more specifically the mirroring, and she actually gave like 3 different personality types, and she correlated them to animals or something, and like one person was like the peacock, and one person was like the bull, and I forget what the other one was, but it definitely, like, parts of that stuck with me. And part of it was like, because I'm not like the bull personality type, but if I get someone who is the bull, who's like the corporate type, and they're like really, really serious, I never go into that lesson and I'm just like, hey, how's it going? You excited? Like, no, I don't do that. I have that part of myself, but I like reserve it. I also have this really analytical side of myself. So like I put the flamboyant side on hold and I bring out my like very all business side. I'm like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Like, I'm very serious. And like, I don't know, all of a sudden they start to open up, like they start smiling, they start joking around. But if I was to come at them all like flamboyant, they would probably get turned off by that and maybe not trust me. And I think it comes to, like what the lady was saying was, it comes down to trust. And if someone is like really serious or like quiet, they're like not going to trust you if you're like more flamboyant, I guess. So I agree with that. And that was my own personal experience with that. And I will never forget that seminar, because people were like not about it. They're like, this isn't true. You're asking us to be like totally fake. And I'm like, no. We all have like these different facets of ourselves that we can like access. So anyway.
All right.
Well,
Sweet.
with that idea of like not trying to be like super flamboyant or anything like that, what do you think would be kind of the reverse of that, where you have an instructor who's a very quiet, serious person? First person that comes to mind is Nick Harris, for example. I know that a lot of you from Aspen probably have worked with Nick Harris before, and he's a very, very quiet, very serious guy. I don't think I've ever seen a flamboyant side of Nick Harris myself. I've only been in a couple exams with him, but he seems like he doesn't really have that side. So he seems like he's always in that kind of quiet, kind of serious, kind of aspect. So what do you think would happen if he had that really flamboyant, really kind of outgoing person come up to him?
Tony.
To answer your point is, yeah, you're dead right. Like you would think it's like quite not Nick, and it's not really genuine. But I mean, I've been with Nick when he's had a few drinks in him, and then he gets a little bit more flamboyant. But to another point that I was thinking about, a lot of you guys were talking about active listening, and something that actually Hargraves mentioned it the other night that I always think about with active listening is that there's 2 types of active listening: listening with intent to respond and listening with intent to understand. And when people listen to intent with respond, sometimes they'll do the mirroring because they're trying to like almost like start their response before you finish. So sometimes it could be detrimental, and you just have to be very careful and patient with how you do the mirroring piece. Whereas the other side of it, if it's active listening with intent to understand, that's when it becomes quite strong and a good tactic.
All right, sweet. The only thing I'd like to add, one thing is just, I noticed in that interview, the interviewer was saying, he repeated himself a lot. Like, I noticed that you seem to like this. I noticed that you seem to like being around good people, that you are a nice person or whatever. And repeating that so much in the same way becomes disingenuous. Or to me, it seemed to be disingenuous. That was the only thing for me. Did anybody else have any other points they wanted to bring up before we move along? Demons?
Just to respond to your comment, Cody, about like Nick and just quieter people in general, I think my like goal when I interact with those people is like, I feel like they're that like M&M hard candy out shell. And so you just try and like, you know, slowly warm them up. And then like, if you can crack them with like a joke or something like that, when you can get them to, yeah, brown, when you can get them to crack, like, and with a laugh or something, I feel like that bull has shown like its like sensitive side that it doesn't show to everybody, but like you can get a bulldog to roll over on its belly. And that like for me is like, then I know I've like built that true rapport. That's like my big test, if I can get them to like come out of their shell a little bit.
All right, sweet. Yeah, Nick Harrison definitely come out of his shell. So moving on, Cody, did you have another part to bring up here?
No, I was just seeing if anybody else had any other tactics that they kind of use when dealing with a customer that they just kind of felt it was difficult to build a rapport with.
Cool. All right. So yeah, if you've got any tactics or you've used something either in a positive way or a negative way that has or hasn't worked, let us know and we can chat about it a little bit for the next 10, 15 or so. So yeah, go ahead if you're keen. Dana?
If sometimes I just have guests who maybe there's just something else going on with them. Maybe they're like really hungover or something, and like there's just really nothing I can do. And sometimes I need to practice just acceptance and patience. And that was hard. When I first started teaching at Breckenridge, I was like, whoa, like, why is the person so quiet? Or why aren't they engaging? Are they having fun? Am I doing something wrong? Like, what's going on? Am I, and I was just like, whoa. And now I just have to relax and, you know, still like be very present with them. But if they're just, maybe just some people just take a little while to warm up. Maybe they're super scared. Maybe they're really nervous. Like, you have no idea. So in those scenarios, if I can just take a step back, usually they'll open up eventually. Like if I just like calm down for a second and just like let some time go by, because to me, experiencing the lesson from like the teacher's perspective, I'm like aware of so many things, especially the more and more you teach, generally your awareness expands. So you're just like, oh my gosh, so much time has gone by. But maybe to them, they're just taking everything in. They're like, this is a lot, and they're just really soaking it in. So patience and acceptance is something that's helped me in those really tough scenarios. And I've had some tough students to crack, but it has worked out if I can just follow all the, you know, the protocol and just wait.
I think, Dana, if I can jump in and support what you were just saying, that kind of patience and that waiting, if you just try to do, that's when the ingenuine gets deeper and deeper. And if you do take that step back, like you said, and just wait, sometimes they will open the door for you, and then that can go in. And sometimes people will never open the door, and that may not be their interest to what they want out of the day. Like, I just want to ride around and listen to you. So identifying that motivation is important too, and not feeling like you have to. I mean, you want to put the effort in to try to connect with every guest, but when you overcook it, that's when it becomes, and that's the time where you just have to step back. You're like, I tried, I did everything I could. Now I'm going to just let this run for a while. And when I get the opportunity to say something that's super relevant, I'm going to put it in, and maybe the door will open, but maybe it won't. But I know I put effort in, you know, and that's where that patience, and that's hard sometimes, because you're like, wow, what's going on with this person? Like, why aren't we connecting? And you could be connecting and you just don't know it.
Absolutely. Has anybody else got any points on this topic of mirroring and labeling? No? Okay, cool. All right, well then we will move on. Thank you very much, Cody, for presenting. That was sweet. Did you want to wrap it up at all?
No, thanks for helping me out with that, guys. This is definitely something that's like a fairly new thing for me in particular. Like I said, just kind of happened during the quarantine where I just happened to go and find this idea and thinking about how we can bring it to the snow sports industry. So thanks, guys.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I know it's come up a bit recently in some discussions with other people, so it's definitely floating around out there. Cool. All right. Well, we'll move over to our next presenter, Chandler. Chandler, what is your topic for us?
There you go. Let me unmute myself. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, my topic is kind of like the theories of learning and kind of the different avenues that we go about that. And I'm not, the best public speaker or the pretty interpersonal, but I'm gonna do my best to share my screen. I have a little poll that we can pull up if that will work out. There we go, share screen. Cool. You guys see that? The PowerPoint? Yay, nay?
Yep.
Sweet. So yeah, if you could just text to 22333 and then put in C Pelletier 995, and then you're gonna get a response saying that you're entered into the poll, and then you can text your answer and it should show up on the screen.
Does it have to be in caps?
I've never used this before, so I would say yes. It should come up.
All right. Give us a thumbs up if you got the reply, guys.
Oh, there we go. I'm starting to see some words show up.
Chandler, you might have to change your screen sharing for us to be able to see it. We're only seeing the PowerPoint right now, which doesn't have
Okay.
anything but just the text.
All right. Let me figure it out.
Chandler, do you have to have an iPhone for this to work?
I see it on like my laptop, so.
I have an Android. And
Yeah, because Lynn doesn't have an iPhone. I know that.
Oh, okay.
She said it's not working.
Let's see.
I texted from an Android. It worked.
Okay, cool.
Shit. Well, now I can't even figure out how to get back to the screen. Is it everyone seeing? What are you guys seeing?
Demon's just put it in chat there.
Okay.
Can everybody see that chat? You'll just have to open a separate window if you're on full screen.
Oh, I got the screens back. I can see you guys, but But you guys not seeing the poll, or is it getting too complicated?
When I click on the poll link, it takes me to poll everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't take me to any specific poll though.
Huh.
For me.
Well, let's try. Anyways, I'll just go back to sharing my screen. But I was just curious when we talk about the learning styles, or when you think about the word learn.
Yeah, one word you think when you hear the word learn. Text.
Right. Yeah. That's trying to.
That's how I read it. Is a question.
You think when you hear the word learn. Okay. One word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my word.
Chandler.
I'm trying to figure out how to get back into all the screens.
Yeah, Chandler, are you getting our one words on your side?
I had it there once, yeah, and now I'm trying to figure out how to get it back. Oh, there we go. Cool. I got information, skills, new, knowledge, open. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Sweet. So what I want to try to really get into is when you try to learn something new, what exactly road do you go down? Is there one way? Is there multiple ways, or is there things that you can kind of use in other ways that still relate together? Which is what my topic was going to get into about linear learning, but like learning something in like a straight path. Lateral learning is thinking of an idea and motivating them into other paths that will still relate to a same outcome, and then like transferable, where you can take other skills and knowledge, and they can help us for good or for worse. So if I can get back to my PowerPoint for the screen, that's what I would like to, if everyone can see that. You guys see that?
Yep, we can see it.
Cool. So just going over the kind of different styles of learning. The linear, like I can go on like a kind of a straight path that where it's all in like one progression, where it's hard to see things on a different path. But like that's a really good example of like a first-time snowboarder or someone like training for the Cert 1. Like they learn that progression in like that very linear, straightforward way. So it could be harder to kind of see things in other ways, but it will come over time, which will bring us into that more that lateral learning, where you can start learning these new skills and see how they're used for these same applications, and how we can use it in other ways, and kind of think a little bit outside what we're doing, and see how they can use these movements or performances and apply them to the same thing, but in other pieces of terrain or all over the mountain. And then so that's more of like a Cert 2, and also opening up, kind of open up the can of worms of how we can adapt things. And then the more of the transferable learning is once you take those old skills and other skills that you use outside of snowboarding, and kind of blend them together, and how we can use them, but they can still match, and kind of think outside the box. So I kind of want to open up the discussion to how we can all use these together, and how they've helped us in our careers with riding or teaching, and how they've been for good or for bad, and just kind of see what you guys' thoughts are for that. And then I have another slide for the pros and cons for each type of learning, and anything that you could add to that or agree or disagree with would be great.
All right, sweet. So we'll open it up to you guys. There's quite a bit of stuff there, so
Yeah.
process. But yeah, if you want to put your hands up if you've got something to add or a viewpoint you'd like shared. I can jump in, and I know that sometimes I've relied on my, I guess that would be the transference, transferable learning. I've relied on my kind of other things in life to sometimes help me in the snowboarding world or hinder me. Just movement patterns that I've developed over years of doing other things. I've got a background in martial arts, and anybody who's watched me snowboarding has seen there's like a lot of quick and jerky movement sometimes going on, and that might be from an early childhood and lots of adolescence of doing martial arts. So that could have hindered me or helped me. It helps balance, but might not have hindered smoothness of motion. So, my thought. Anybody got something? Corey?
So I like that you brought it to like when you're training for like your cert 1, it's more linear, and your cert 2 is more lateral, because I do feel like that when I don't grasp the full concept of something, I'm definitely more of a linear learner, because I'm like, okay, A, B, C, D, E leads me to F. Whereas as I progress and understand snowboarding more, or whatever it is, I feel like I can think a little bit more outside the box, and I can get a little more creative with it. Or if someone's trying to teach me something, I understand where they are going, because I have a better understanding of the overall goal. As far as like transferable learning, still like so my background is in gymnastics, and I was a gymnast for like 12 years before I really got into snowboarding. And it took me a few years of understanding snowboarding before I could really transfer in anything that I had with gymnastics into snowboarding. So I feel like I had to get way past the linear learning to the lateral learning to be able to transfer my learning.
Also, you felt like there was a definite progression there, Corey, from linear to lateral to transference?
If I'm comparing it to snowboarding, yes, because I came into snowboarding slightly older, like 22, and didn't really know anything about it. And so the way my thought process is A, B, C, D, E when I first started learning, because I felt like with my background anyway, there's like a right way and a wrong way to do things. And then it took me a while to get creative and expand upon that. So for me, with the snowboarding process anyway, it was linear, and then lateral and transferable were kind of intermingled.
Cool. Does anybody got anything else, personal experience or experience with certifications or others?
I mean, I kind of want to factor in like any time when we're trying to train our instructors, like from a first timer or all the way up to cert 2, or even our own personal riding, and how to use all these skills that we developed over the years to how they can relate for good or bad in other sports that we do during the summer, other jobs that we do during the summer, and how they can make our job for better or for worse, and hopefully for the better.
Cool. Scotty.
I just had a question to throw out to you guys because I have an opinion on it, but I wanted to throw it out to the crew first, and then I can jump back in and tell you what I think. But do you think there's a difference between teaching for transfer and transferable learning?
What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I'm gonna say yes.
Because I do too, but I'm just curious how we would define that or how they would be used differently. And does anybody else other than Tony have a thought on that before Tony or I jump in on it?
No, doesn't look like it. Go for it, boys.
Do you want to go, Tony?
Yeah, sure. So to me, transferable learning, what he's got up here is taking like not just applying one skill from another sport to snowboarding, but it's to me it's kind of like what works, you know, how to take like I guess basically what I'm trying to say is how to take one skill and be able to transfer that in a different way. Versus like mimicking the same exact skill from one to the other. That's how I was thinking about it. Is that what you thought?
Well, I think when I look at that and I think about it, I think that there's the teaching for transfer is like it says, you know, other hobbies or sports or things outside of snowboarding that you bring into the snowboard world. To me, that's a solid teaching for transfer. But then once you get them into snowboarding here and you're talking about a joint, a movement, or something like that, that's when you're actually transferring the learning. And that can happen within snowboarding as well. Meaning, you know, when you teach a straight glide and then you move it into a box and then you move it into whatever it is, that's a solid, like if you look at black and white, a straight glide into a box is transferable learning. Taking something outside of the sport to get somebody to stand on the board right, to do a straight glide, that's teaching for transfer. That's kind of where my head goes. And I didn't know if that was in line with other people's thought process or if anybody have even gone that deep in thinking about it.
I mean, I guess the difference would be like if it comes from a different sport into snowboarding or within snowboarding is kind of the two that I thought. But is it the same as if if you're just talking about the learning is the skill. So if it's just learning, then those two are really the same. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It's just a matter of moving from one to the other. But if it's not, then it is.
It's just an interesting thing. I just wanted to see where people's minds were on it.
Yeah, I know I definitely hadn't gone that far down the rabbit hole, Scott. So you have me on that one. Does anybody have some other thoughts here? Lynn?
Hey, Scott. So it's my understanding that transferable learning is knowledge gained while solving one problem and then applying it to another problem in the same kind of situation, which is pretty similar to what you said. And then I think clear on teaching for transfer. Does that sound like?
I mean, I have no data or things to quote to think about it, but that's where my head goes for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I just kind of gave this topic for my thoughts and experience and kind of just thought the pros and cons and kind of really wanted to open up to the group and get a lot deeper into it. So it's been, really awesome that you guys are explaining what your thoughts are with it.
Okay. We got pretty deep into teaching for transferable learning. And does anybody have a similar topic or a similar thought in the same vein, maybe for linear learning or lateral learning? Yeah, Mike.
Chandler, I'd ask you, what is something that you are currently learning or have learned recently? And what did you begin with when you were in that learning process?
Well, to start with, when you start, you learn something new, like anything, and you maybe think of it like in one way. You think, oh, this is the way it's done, and you start going on that straight path, which is more that linear, like beginner stage, and then you can start thinking about other ways to get around it, and there's not just one way to do things. There's other ways to do it. Maybe it's not the best way or the most efficient way, but like you can really start thinking of ways that will, depending on the exact task that you're doing, but there's still other ways to get it done. And then depending on like other things that you've done in life, other skills that you have, or other backgrounds you have, you can start thinking of other avenues that can still kind of blend that lateral and transferable together. And hopefully it's for the best, and you're trying to get to that outcome the quickest way possible without an amount of work.
Okay.
So
I was going to rephrase my question. Have you learned something new recently?
Something new recently?
Yeah.
I guess it's really dealing with the whole like coronavirus. Dealing with how to deal with like plans and clients that you've had, and then staying in quarantine, stuff like that. You had all these plans that they were going through, but now they altered. But can you adapt to that quickly based on your previous skills?
Perfect.
All right, sweet. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this topic here, guys? Cody.
Yeah, so Chandler and I kind of went over each other's topics a little bit a couple days ago, just to try and prepare a little bit for this evening. And as he was kind of going over his topic, I kind of thought about that idea of like copy, choose, create. And I think that is something that kind of applies to this idea where like the linear learning is just straight up copying. Once we get to lateral learning, we kind of are choosing certain things here and there that we kind of want to, take into the learning process. Whereas transferable learning, I kind of see that whole create side of it. And I was just wanting to see if the rest of the group kind of sees that as well, or if that's just something that I'm just crazy and just kind of pulling at things.
Bueller.
Cody, I think that's great. The way that you kind of broke that down is pretty simple to understand where you fit in within a certain task that you're given. So if you do find you're not sure where to take your client to the next level, are they still copying you? If they're gone past the stage of copying you, then great, then we can move into something else. So that whole task command thing kind of like, is managed, and off we go to the next thing, which will be the lateral learning. So that's a great cue to kind of keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, Tony.
I think on that note, like if you like dissecting and looking a little bit more at linear learning, I think it's funny how people will always kind of think about linear learning as quite low level and beginners. We do that in beginner progression. First you do this, escape by moving your back foot from the front binding, back binding, something like that. So it's very linear, kind of more task and command is driven. But really, it's funny how it cycles. The learning process cycles, because a lot of that linear learning is used quite a bit at the very, very top level of learning as well, at the very higher levels. When you get into, think about a safety situation when you're in the high country and stuff like that, when you're in the back country, and there's going to be things like that, like make sure you do this now. And it's very like, and then you do this, and then you do this. And it's very set versus like, hey, maybe it's not always good to go a little bit more like, hey, think about what other situation have you been in a situation where you're up here and your next move could be detrimental, obviously, with safety and stuff. So I think my point is that linear learning always gets looked at as task and command, that those are lower levels of style of learning and methods of delivering information, but that could be used at a very high end as well.
Tony, I really like that because there's once you get to that higher level, there's a lot of variables now that you're dealing with. And if you don't follow those exact things, there's you can easily miss things along the way. So it allows you to set an order of operations so that, you know, whether that be a routine before you drop into a run, or, you know, in the backcountry, making sure you're checking your partner's safety equipment, that sort of stuff. It's like, that's really important. So I like how you brought that in there. Any other thoughts on this, guys? No? Yeah? Demons? Yep.
Yeah, I just had one more thing, like kind of building on what Tony was saying, is I was kind of, as I was learning about this new concept, thinking about how my learning process has been with my most recent like research project as the van, is I switch between linear, lateral, transferable like all the time. Like I will like choose one thing and then like delve into that one thing, but then like that like leads to like a point of frustration, or if that leads to a point where like I'm not feeling like I'm getting anywhere with it, then I switch over to like laterally moving out and trying to find other aspects to look into. And then I try and take all my previous knowledge, you know, and use that to solve that problem. If I've used my linear learning to get to a point, maybe I need to use, you know, some sort of transferable moment to be like, oh, I know like when I do this in this other thing, then it definitely transfers over to that. So yeah, I think it's like similar to like Carol Dweck's like growth mindset, where people got into this, oh, you're either in a fixed or a growth mindset. I think it's more dynamic than that. I think it's constantly changing. Like good learning should incorporate all three.
Yeah, if anybody has ever had the pleasure or the displeasure of building out a van, or working on an RV, or yeah, any sort of car that you live out of, that's definitely a thing. And it's like, oh, you're following this path down there, and then you hit a point, and then maybe you fix something else, and because of that, you're now able to move on the thing that you were starting off, you know, in the first place. Has anybody got anything else? Otherwise, we will move on to our next presenter. Ali?
Yeah, I was just thinking about how even within learning, working with our guests, these types of learning could even be applied to kind of like the greater idea of snowboarding and taking all of those skills in that progression, versus lateral learning, or even transferable learning, which individual skills, you might start to ask those people as you get to know them and get to know those personality traits. As they know other things or have other experiences, you might start to use lateral learning or transferable learning for them to work on those individual skills within here. So just kind of how they all can fit together and like overlap a little bit. It's kind of pretty neat.
Pretty neat. All right. So we're going to move on here, guys. Chandler, did you want to wrap this up at all here, bud?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks guys for chiming in, and I just wanted to share like how with our own personal writing or our own teaching, the clientele that we've built, how we can use these skills or other hobbies that we use, how all these types of learnings, and how we can really adapt them to make ourselves better, and also our teaching skills better to the clients that we use, or even training our instructors, depending on whatever cert they're going through, how we can still use these kind of simple concepts to just continue to make everything better.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks very much. And we are going to move on to, this is going to be the first time I think we'll have 3 presenters in one Zoom call. So this is going to be sweet. Lynn Hasday is up next. And yeah, she's going to give us a little rundown. So go ahead, take it away, Lynn.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Lynn. I'm from Beaver Creek. I think I know most of you guys. I've been working on a presentation for a couple months. Chris has seen it and helped me with it. So thank you, Chris. I know you're still on. So I need to volunteer somebody. Does anyone really not want to be volunteered? Does anyone care if I just pick? I'm not going to pick you, Corey. Don't worry. Tony, can I pick you? Okay. Can you turn your volume on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so Tony, can you slide your computer back a little? And while Tony's sliding his computer back, does everyone see where there's the pin video? Conrad, does everyone see where there's that pin video option? And you can pin somebody's video up in your screen so everybody can see it?
Oh, damn.
Everybody. Tony, I need your computer a little further back so you can reach your arms over your head and you can see your hands.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, everybody got Tony pinned up?
Oh, shit.
Thumbs up if you do.
We don't have Tony pinned up.
Everybody pin up Tony.
We want Tony pinned up.
I want to see everybody else's reactions.
All right, don't worry, you're gonna want to see Tony's reaction for this one. All right, does everyone have Tony pinned up? Thumbs up if you do. Thumbs down if you don't.
Yeah.
You guys want to, can you make sure you guys can see him? Can everyone see him?
Let's throw some light on you.
Oh, dude.
All right, cool. So you don't need to see me right now. You do need to see Tony. All right, Tony. So please close your eyes. Reach your hands up over your head. All right, and touch your pointer fingers together. Did you get that on the first try?
No, it kind of slipped. And then...
How's that make you feel? It sucks to fuck up, doesn't it?
A little bit. Maybe.
It's okay though. We all do stuff that is sometimes a little embarrassing, but it happens to all of us, and it's okay. You can let go now. It's fine. Everybody go back to normal view if they want. Sorry, Tony. Thanks for playing along. All right. So, guys, think about a time when you were leading a clinic and you did a trick on cue. Were you able to accurately assess how you did? Do you guys, basically what I'm asking is, do you guys feel aware of whether you're performing above or below where you expect of yourself? So can you guys think of a time where you performed worse than you thought you did? Does anyone have a specific moment that they want to bring up?
Just hands up, guys, for any specific moments of failure. Dana.
The first time I attempted my Cert 3 ride, I thought I was okay. Not maybe not passing, but all right. And I failed really miserably. I fucked up so bad. I was looking at my score sheet and I was like, oh shit, I should stop snowboarding. So that was a time that I really misassessed my own performance.
All right, thank you for sharing, and that's totally okay. Can you guys think of a time when you've performed better than you thought you did? You thought you did okay and you just totally nailed it?
Corey?
Oh, was that for what
time? Yeah, that was, so I took my RMT last year, and well, it kind of goes both ways. I was like, okay, I'm usually really confident about my teaching and my clinics, and I'm pretty okay about MA, but I was really worried about the writing tests. And then when I got my feedback back, I passed my ride, and I was like, sweet, okay, cool. Total bomb on my clinic, and was actually pretty accurate on my MA. I was like,
Cool. So this is open to everyone. You can put your mics on if you want. Let's make this a little more fun. If you feel like putting your mic on, you guys can turn it on. I need some people to turn it on though. Nobody. Okay, Anfang is on. Tony's on. Cody. All right, see people on. All right, so guys, how good of a trainer do you think you are?
In what sport or thing?
I feel like there's always room for improvement.
How good do you think you are?
I think people like me and like to come to my clinics.
Are you sure?
Oh shit, maybe.
Are you positive?
Michelle gives me a thumbs up, so yes.
I can't see Michelle's thumb, so I don't know.
I mean, based on the feedback on Flake, people give a survey on Flake for let's say attend your clinic, and if they just give a star, give you a 9 or a 10, but they don't actually give any comments, so it's really hard to tell if they like it or not, or they just give you a 10.
Well, that's got to be pretty demeaning if you only get one star. But let's bring it back to metacognition, because we want to talk about our awareness of ourselves as trainers. Chris Hargrave, are you a good trainer?
I mean, it depends on the day, but yeah, sometimes.
Are you sure? You seem kind of uncertain.
What about that clinic you were talking about that one time when you were like, I'm giving a banger clinic, but no one was engaged. And you're like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not giving a banger clinic.
Well, I knew I wasn't giving a banger clinic just because the information wasn't hitting, right? So
Yeah.
it was just the wrong focus. But I would say, I mean, to step outside of my humble mode and just be honest, yeah, I know I'm a very good trainer. I know I'm a very good clinician. Been very successful, but I certainly have had moments where I've failed and moments where I've shined, and a lot of in between. You know, so I think that would be my assessment of myself. And I'd say, you know, like that instance where, you know, where I was failing, you know, it took a little while for it to register because I was pretty hung up on the ideas that I was trying to get across. But once I try to self-assess, and sometimes I'm faster than others, you know. Is that a fair response?
That's a very fair assessment.
Okay.
But are you sure you're a good trainer? I mean, those are a lot of words.
Yes, I'm certain. In this group, I'll be honest with you, it's hard to say, it's hard to be confident in saying something like that because I'm concerned that I'll sound arrogant in doing so. So I'm sort of withholding, but yes, I firmly believe that I am a good trainer. And I say that from a place of no arrogance whatsoever, just that is my personal opinion of my ability to train. There are certainly things that I don't think I'm very good at, but when you ask me if I'm a good trainer, yes, I know I am a good trainer. Is that fair? You had to push me to get there.
I did have to push you to get there because sometimes we're uncertain of ourselves, and that's okay. So basically, so have you guys ever had an instructor who was so ignorant that they had no clue how ignorant they are? Like that kid in new hire who thinks they rip, and they like almost crash into every single person in the group and hit like the slow signs and everything? Can anybody?
Definitely seen that.
Yeah. I actually had a kid in new hire group run into the photographer on our first free lap.
When I was a new hire, there was another new hire in my group that showed up late, showed up with headphones on, showed up drinking a Red Bull, you know, and the clinician obviously got really mad at him, and this kid was like, I don't give a fuck. Sorry for my language, guys. Sorry. He's a really good snowboarder, but you know, he only lasted, I think, a year or two as an instructor.
He had no level of cognition or metacognition or anything. So
no, he still doesn't.
That brings us into what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's one of the cognitive biases. It was coined in 1999 by David Dunning and Justin Kruger out of Cornell University, and there are two parts to this bias. One part is when someone's so ignorant, they don't know how ignorant they are, that instructor that we just talked about, hypothetically, of course. And those with a high proficiency sometimes underestimate how much they know compared to others. Basically, we believe that our ability is typical, and that's where a lot of us fall. I know I fall there. For snowboarding, like it's hard to be confident and know that you did a really good job. So we can overcome this through social comparison due to metacognition. Social comparison is when we compare ourselves to people of the same ability. So like Corey, when we were in that exam last year and we were all riding together, that was really a good comparison, I think, for all of us, for all of our teaching and riding and even MA skills, clinicking. So we can overcome it by, we keep learning and practicing. And we're not able to snowboard right now, so we're gonna do some MA and we're gonna do a screen share. And I'm gonna steal Brennan's idea and give you a video of me. Everyone cool with that? All right, can everyone see the video?
Yes.
Is it coming out okay, or is it like?
It's pretty good. It's way better than Spicky's was.
Cool. It's not from the internet, it's from my computer.
Got it.
All right, so there was no really specific task here. It was just ride the bumps. They're a little bit, I mean, you guys can hear how they were. All right, so the next step, so I'm gonna have 3 of you guys give a little bit of MA. I'm gonna try to figure out how to make this window bigger so I can see everyone and not be freaked out. All right, any volunteers?
Chandler's one volunteer, another volunteer, anybody? Anybody?
Hey, Chandler, go for it.
Mike and one more. Or I can. I will. Okay. Go ahead, Chandler.
Cool. So from I see this a lot. For every time you go from heels to toes, you're reaching out, with your right arm. You're really leaning that front shoulder and getting a little blocked, and relying on your upper body to get into that. And also you're I see a lot more weight on your left leg, so you're being way aft like most of the time.
All right. Mike, you want
Yeah. Looking at the video, good size bumps. So I would say good control of speed, great absorption through there. So balance, working over the effective edge looks really good. And line and control, it was spot on. So yeah, good use of the bumps.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with good absorption as well. It seemed like there was the most flexed edge change movement pattern happening throughout. There was a little bit of flex sometimes, but it seemed like you were going up and over more than you were letting your snowboard go underneath you and across when you were transitioning from heel to toe or toe to heel. Just seemed the predominant way that you were releasing pressure. Chris, you wanted to say something?
I just want to ask, is you guys are talking to someone as if this is a specific video I didn't hear. Is this Lynn? Is this your snowboarding?
Yes.
Is this you riding?
Yeah. You can rip it hard. I'm okay with it.
You're a good snowboarder. That was awesome. That looked really good.
Way to butter up the host there, Chris.
Hey man, I know how to make friends. I know how to make friends and influence people.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right. 3 more volunteers, please.
Demons.
Jason? Cody?
For feedback?
No, for something else.
I'm not putting hands up.
Hargrave.
All right. The next step for overcoming the Dunning-Kruger effect through social comparison is asking other people how you're doing. And since we're not on snow, we're going to give feedback on this feedback. And don't worry, I wrote down what everyone said so I can let you know whose feedback you're assessing. And we're going to mix it up. Cody, you're giving feedback to the way Mike gave me feedback. His feedback was good speed control, absorption, balance, and line choice. Is that accurate?
I think that it's very accurate of what he said. I think that you did have fairly good speed control. Your line choice was pretty consistent the entire time. It wasn't like you were doing like small turns to large turns. It was pretty consistent in terms of turn shape the entire time. So yeah, I would say that his feedback was fairly accurate, but it wasn't necessarily like any body part specific feedback for the most part.
And that's totally okay. And that'll move us on to the next stage of this. But for now, I'm going to move on to Chris. I'm going to have you assess what Chandler said. Chandler assessed heel to toe, reaching out with right arm, blocked, and aft most of the time.
I think his feedback, there may have been some accuracy to it at certain moments, but I think it was specific feedback maybe to certain instances, and probably not accurate for the entirety of what I watched. And I think he could try to do a better job of connecting, specific movements, body parts to sensations, and explain things a little more.
Cool. And Jason, what about Conrad's feedback? It was good absorption. He said most flexed at edge change.
Extend.
Also said I was most extended edge, most extended.
He said most extended edge change? I thought he said most flexed edge change movement pattern.
He said most flexed first, but then he described it as most extended, and he just changed what he said to most extended.
Sorry.
I thought it was accurate. I would say that, like, building on what Chris said is like the overall movement pattern. I feel as though you were flexing at edge change using retraction in order to maintain pretty smooth. I didn't see your head bobbing up and down so much. So I would like I would want to like, I don't know. I feel like that's a point where we could like, Conrad and I could go back and watch the video, but like, no, I thought it was, his feedback was succinct. It was objective. And then when it was subjective, you know, you're not like tearing her apart. So I think that's kind of where I go to with my coaching strategy too. So I liked it. I thought it was effective.
All right. So the first step was keep practicing and learning. We did that by watching the video, and some people gave some feedback, some MA. The next thing, and they practiced their MA. The next thing I did was ask other people. The next step is ask other people how you're doing. And that was the people assessing feedback. And the third step is question what you know and challenge expectations, beliefs, and ideas. So would anyone like to challenge what anybody said for any of these three riders?
Oh, you're asking us to challenge the feedback that they gave you or the feedback that they were given? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the feedback that the second round of people. So you're challenging Jason, Cody, or Chris in what they said.
I would like to challenge Jason.
I accept your challenge.
I just want to say that you said you liked my feedback, but you didn't think it was accurate.
I think he's giving you a shit sandwich, man. That's a nice thing to do.
So do I think you have to be incredibly accurate with your feedback in order to give good feedback?
I think it is an integral part of giving good feedback is being accurate. Yes.
So why did you start off with describing flexed edge change and then proceed to describe extended edge change?
I misspoke.
I think
I want to see the video again.
All right, you guys ready? Playing it again.
There's a bird. No, it's a pointer.
All right. Would anybody like to challenge my most extended edge change claim?
I don't even know what that means. What are you guys talking about? It's like crazy stuff. Are you talking about crossover and cross under?
Yeah.
I'm messing with you guys. I'm just teasing.
So it's definitely more of a
Mike
up on weighting from toes to heels and then down on weighting heels to toes.
I'll chime in that there's a lot of blending of movements there, but initially there was no objective. There was absolutely nothing that said that she had to do whatever she was doing. She was just plainly and simply riding her snowboard.
Yeah.
So whatever you choose to focus on kind of gives you an idea of how your brain thinks about when you see somebody.
But to that point, and I'll challenge him a little bit, is that like, yeah, there was no objective for sure, but he's not saying, he just said that she was making an up and over move or an extended edge change move, right?
Sure.
So he didn't say that that was bad or good. He was just describing what was happening. So no. I agree that there's an extended edge change move sometimes, and sometimes there's a flexed edge change. Some of that was from toe to heel. Some of that was for how she absorbed the bumps. But I think overall, I also liked what Cody said about Mike's feedback, but then I also like that Cody gave him some other, like Cody started giving feedback as to how he agreed or did not agree with the accuracy of the feedback, but then he also gave him feedback as to how he presented it as well.
Cool. So the main thing that I'm presenting here is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the second point of it, that people with a high proficiency underestimate how much they know compared to others and believe that their ability is typical of others. Can I open that up for discussion? Does anyone have a time they can relate to where they completely underestimated themselves or are uncertain of what they are doing at a certain time?
All of my exams that I've ever taken.
Sorry, Cody?
All of my exams that I've ever taken.
So you didn't think, Cody, that you were passing your teach?
I thought I was passing, but I didn't think I was going to get the scores that I got. So, like, I thought that I'd probably get a lot of 4s, maybe 1 or 2 5s. I didn't think I would do as well as I did.
And I think, but I think that's a good point. I think that's good that you knew that you were at least passing. It's just the quality of that. Yeah, was probably.
Can I share a thought outside of snowboarding relative to this? Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'll tell you, like, one of the most intimidating areas of my career not long ago was communicating with, you know, like general managers and owners in the industry. And I got into a role where I had to do that really often. And I was very, very nervous that I wouldn't know how to speak their language. But then after the first few times, just getting such great feedback from them, I went, okay, well, maybe I do fit into this environment. Maybe I can talk the talk a little bit. And it was very confidence inspiring, you know, even though there's no secret language, as it turns out. You just kind of have conversations, but but I certainly felt that way. I felt like I was, you know, really underperforming in meetings, but then coming out of them, having people go, wow. So it was so great to have you here, to hear these ideas, yada, yada, that kind of thing. That felt really good. So is that what you're sort of getting at?
Kind of, yeah. So Tony, when someone asks you to do something at an exam, it's not part of the exam, and are you ever like, oh crap?
What, sorry, when somebody asks me to do something?
An instructor or anyone you're examining asks you to do something, are you ever uncertain about it? Like, do you ever think you're going to mess it up?
Oh, yes, often. Like, I always tell people that, like, it's funny how so many candidates at exams are always nervous because the examiner's watching them. But I have like 8 or 7 people watching me when I have to give a demo or something. And I'm supposed to know what I'm doing.
It's hard to have high self-efficacy when everyone's staring at you and you have to do it this one time.
Yeah, but I don't. So you asked, yes, 1, am I worried? Yeah. But 2, do I have belief I can do it? Yeah, absolutely.
Corey.
I was just going to give another example. The first time I did a clinic at my home mountain all by myself, but I had someone like shadowing me. I was really unsure of like, okay, or is it going to be fun, or am I going to have enough content, or are people going to even sign up for it? All of that. And it was like an all women's like freestyle clinic, and I was only supposed to have 8, but then I ended up having 10, and I had to tell people not to come. And at the end of the clinic, I was so frazzled. I did get good feedback, but like I was like sweating like the whole time.
Sometimes what we view for how we perform for ourselves is totally inaccurate. Everyone else had a great time and we think we bombed it. Does that sound like it might be accurate sometimes, Corey?
Sometimes. Like, I know I didn't bomb it, but I just wanted to make sure. You know, when you learn something new and you're like, I want to give you all of this information right now. And the people receiving the information was like, whoa, that is way too much. I just was really worried about giving people too much because I was so excited.
Michelle. Oh no, can't hear you.
You want to type?
You type it and then we'll come back to you. Tony, you had another thing?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, and Mike and I were just talking about it. Like, did you ever watch video of yourself and before you watch it, you're like, oh my God, that was horrible. That sucked. And then you watch it, you're like, oh, that's not that bad. That doesn't look that bad. And I think we get into a situation too, where so many of us spend so much time on our snowboards that we get a real fine tune in for dynamic balance and how we move on our board and whether it affects or doesn't affect the snowboard, that we're quite hard on ourselves and we're quite picky in feeling what feels good and what doesn't feel good. So sometimes when it doesn't feel good, we're like, oh, that was crap, when actually the visual you were showing was fine to what you're actually trying to do.
Yeah, I like that, Tony. There's often points where it's like it always feels worse than you think it felt, and it always looks better. If you thought it went bad, it always looks better than you thought it did, almost always. All right. Anybody else got a spot where they overachieved or went above and beyond?
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle, not going to be able to tie. Oh, okay. She's saying it's not gonna happen. Anybody else?
These moments where you've overachieved, but you didn't realize that you overachieved. Is that what you're? I'm just trying to clarify.
That also, yes. When you've done way better than you thought you did, too.
National team tryouts 2012. that was a really good example. Because I wasn't really even paying attention to it. It was very, very intense, environment. I'm sure some of you have been through it and you understand, or you're training for it. It's pretty overwhelming, but I just kind of, I didn't think I did great on a lot of levels, but I ended up doing okay. So it was, in fact, Tony might remember, he was at the selection night, and when they called my name, I was in a state of shock. I didn't even realize it was like me, like of this whole group of people. There's all these incredible human beings sitting around me. They're way better snowboarders than me. And they picked me. It was like, they like me. They really like me. It was a pretty neat moment, because I really didn't think that I was, at the top of the group. It's just not how I saw myself.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing, Chris.
Sure.
Anybody else? No? I mean, I've got one. When I made ed stuff this past year and I was doing children's stuff, there was only 2 selected out of the group of 5. I didn't think that I was going to make it. I thought there was a couple of other people who presented a little bit better, had some cleaner demos on things, and but I was one of the people who selected, and I also thought that, I didn't perform to that level. Cool. All right. No? All right, Lynn, keep going.
The value of the Dunning-Kruger effect as trainers is that we need a high level of understanding of how we're performing. We need a solid and accurate demo of every task, and the demo needs to be to a 4 to 6 level. It's not a choice. And if we mess it up, we have to call ourselves out right away. And the high level of metacognition allows us to be confident in what we know and work towards a higher level of self-efficacy to overcome the Dunning-Kruger effect. Do the 3 ways we can overcome it make sense to everybody, and the path we follow through the MA? That wasn't really English, was it?
I feel like you were speaking a random language that I only partially understood.
Just say it again.
Okay. So basically, we can use the Dunning-Kruger effect to help us have a higher self-efficacy. I know sometimes I'm uncertain when I'm delivering information, like right now. Like, I know it's a cool topic. I don't know if you guys are liking it or not. I think you do. But in reality, you probably are liking it, and there's nothing to worry about. And as we get that understanding as trainers of when we're doing okay, when we're doing not okay, when we need to like call ourselves out because we totally messed something up, or when we just nail something, it's really important to be able to tell where we are. Anyone?
Cool. So Lynn, how do you tell where you are?
I've been learning a lot about emotional intelligence and being able to be more self-aware and assess myself pretty accurately. I've gotten a lot better at it over the past 2-3 years, especially. Has anyone else studied emotional intelligence or social intelligence or anything? Allie?
I've been around it a little bit between like just education and early childhood development stuff that I've kind of tapped in whatnot. The more other people, I guess I haven't thought about it as it relates to me and like how I put myself out there as much, but definitely just like kind of understanding people and like working with the groups in the training clinics, just kind of feeling that vibe from everyone and trying to see, wherever it is, how they're feeling, and when something's off, just being able to note it. But I haven't delved into as much thought as I'd like to. I was really excited about this topic, by the way. I love it.
Does anyone else have anything to add?
No? You want to wrap it up then, Lynn? Oh, Mike, unless Mike does.
I'm not going to wrap it up, but I'm going to ask a couple questions, that's for sure. Have you ever experienced going up the chairlift, watching a beginner snowboarder ride down the mountain completely out of control, but having the time of their life? Where would you put that into this Dunning-Kruger effect?
They're so ignorant that they don't know their ignorance in the first part of it. It's kind of like the classic person, like the new hire that we were talking about at the beginning.
Okay, so would you put them in the confidence or the experience box?
All right, I'm going to open it up a little bit more. So do you know about Johari's window?
No. Is that a question directed at me or everybody?
Or it's at you specifically, but it's to everybody. Are you guys familiar with Johari's window? All right, so basically there are 4 quadrants, okay? There's the unknown, which is where that person would sit. They don't know what they're doing or if they're doing a good job or how they are, and they're just kind of in their own little corner, right? Then there's the known, which is where we are a lot of the time. We know how we're doing. We know what we're doing. For example, when Chris was assessing his abilities as a trainer at the beginning, he knows where he is. He knows he's a good trainer. And we know that he's a good trainer. Then there are 2 other sections. So there's the known, unknown. And this is kind of where the Dunning-Kruger effect is. We know so much about a topic, but we know that there's so much more to learn about snowboarding, for example, that we think we can't possibly be experts because there's so much more to learn that we don't know. And then there's the unknown knowns, for example, where you guys would know stuff about me and I wouldn't know it unless you said it. Does that make sense, everybody? So does everyone see how Johari's window relates, and then how that relates to the snowboarder that Mike was talking about, who's going down the hill and like flailing all over the place and has no idea and they're having a great time?
Yeah, I want to be that guy. That sounds like a lot of fun and like a really good place to live. So just saying, it'd be great.
Mike, you said you had a couple of questions.
Yeah, so based off that question, with a particular person, would you say it's a positive impact or a negative impact on what they're doing?
For that specific person who's in the unknown quadrant?
Yes.
It would depend on what their goal is and what their motivations are. If their goal is just to like go down the mountain, have fun with their buddies, then whatever.
So can we take that mentality and put that into our own training and build our own confidence with that? Because that's how it all started, didn't it? When we picked up a snowboard, it was all unknown, but it was so much fun. And we were willing to put ourselves in that place to then take it to the next level. Whereas where we are right now, we overthink everything and we criticize everything. We dumb ourselves down instead of taking it back to that really known place where it's just having a great time. With confidence, we build a lot from it.
Mike, I would say that it is almost impossible to go back there, because now you have experience in whatever field it is, be it snowboarding or building a van or whatever it is, that it's impossible to go back to ignorance. Like you can't go back into your 2-year-old self, and like experience sensory motor as it is experienced by a 2-year-old. You can imitate it, but you would have to be experiencing a new thing all the time to maintain that, I think. That's my opinion. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, Chris?
Can you stop yourself from thinking that this is a new experience?
With substances.
But no, I would say that's almost like you a limitation on your own ability then to have a bit of forward thinking, because you're already saying knowledge is more powerful than just straight up confidence.
I got a thought on this, Mike, that maybe works, because I agree with you. Is it possible to go back and look at training and any experience in snowboarding with, fresh eyes that way? And I think back to, because I tell this story a lot, but I think back to when my dad, helped me learn how to ski, got me a lesson. The lesson didn't go that great. And he then spent about 9 hours helping me learn how to, do a wedge, drift to the left, drift to the right. I could stop, I could get off the chair after a long, long day of stress for him. But I remember thinking back, and he could ski, he wasn't like a great skier, but he could ski well enough. And it was a powder day, and he's there on the beginner hill. And still, every single thing that he experienced with me seemed like it was brand new. Because I still to this day remember his reaction, his excitement, his joy. And he was so elated if I learned something new. And so I always try to tell people, I think it's important that we think about learning with, not teaching to. And that is to say that every single student, every clinic, every training session is an opportunity to go out and allow that group to show you something new in how they approach a thought, an idea, an experience. And while you still may be guiding some of it through experience, as Conrad's pointing out, I certainly think that you can through the eyes of your students, your clinic attendees, your trainees, you can certainly have that very brand new, that very totally open-minded, and you can let go. I think it is possible to let go of all that knowledge that turns snowboarding into a freaking fashion show. This whole cool guy, all the bullshit, everything where you got to look a certain way and dress a certain part, and you got to fit into a certain thing. I mean, the more that stuff melts away, I think the more fun snowboarding becomes. I mean, it's like, yes, I would say yes, I think you can apply that kind of thinking and philosophy to any clinic and any training experience if you allow yourself to learn with the people in your group versus, controlling that direction completely. So the more you learn with them, the more they drive the learning, I think the more it would feel that way. There's my thought.
So my interpretation of that, Chris, is that every moment or every interaction with someone where you're teaching or, new is a new experience. Like every single thing is a new experience. So
Yeah.
You are allowing yourself to forget a whole bunch of stuff or just not think about it, then you would be back in that unknown.
Yeah. And, I'll be honest with you, man, like I've been teaching since like 93, and I've forgotten so much stuff. There's sometimes I rediscover ideas and I go, oh, wait a second. I remember that from like the 90s. And it's not that my brain is bad. It's just, there's been so much time where it's possible with time and with that open-mindedness. And it's so much better to learn to work with people that way, because you learn so much more about yourself and them if you don't have all the answers. So anyways.
Tony, he's two hands.
Ooh, pick me. Chris, I'm gonna have a nice little debate with you right now. So I'm on Conrad's ship with the whole, like, it's impossible. And the reason for this, and let me just give you an example, like,
yeah,
if we all go out, we take a beginner snowboard lesson, we learn how to make some turns, and we think we're hot stuff. We're like, yeah, I'm going to the park, right? And I'm gonna go hit this rail. And I know, or hit this box or whatever, hit a jump. And I know through my like learning how to make turns, don't like pivot the board sideways and push down on the downhill edge, because that's going to suck, right? I know to avoid that in my landings. So even though I'm not thinking about it, I react to it, right? Similar to like how you react by learning, obviously, with sculpted terrain and, teaching all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's no point that you unknow that. You already know that. So once you experience it once, there's some things that right? And you can't unknow that stuff. So therefore, it's always going to be known or known unknown at that point.
Yeah, but I guess I was perceiving what Mike was saying as more of a philosophical approach, and I would say in that respect, yes. I mean, I'll give you an example. Here's a counterpoint to your point. I'm at Big Snow this year in New Jersey, indoor learning area. And it's tiny and it's crazy. And people are walking in every 60 seconds. There's like a new student who comes over. You'll be in the middle of teaching someone, and another person comes up to you and goes, I need some help. And so you're like teaching 5 people different things the same. It's wild. It's totally crazy. And what I learned, though, the reason why I bring this up is because I had never been in a place where people didn't want a learning process that was easy to follow or would be helpful, where they just wanted to try things on their own. And so to that end, even though I knew full well that when I would send people up the magic carpet to their doom, that they were probably going to do things that to your point, that yes, I know they shouldn't do, or there are things they should be doing, that kind of thing. I certainly can have an open enough mind to go, okay, well, maybe if I turn off what I know and just experience this, that I might learn something new through that experience. Now, it doesn't change the fact that I know these other things that work, as you're pointing out, or that I have all these experiences. It's just to say that I think it is totally possible for you to not impose what you know on someone else. And so in a training environment, to Mike's point, you don't have to impose all your knowledge on people. You certainly don't. And there's something to be said for, as you said, what is it in the ride versus drive, that ride is not
underappreciated. Yeah.
Underappreciated. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And to that point, you can also ride a clinic, with a group of people and let them push it. And just, even though you may already have seen these things, you may have been there, done that, but it's the difference between listening with the intent to understand and listening with the intent to respond. Most clinicians know the answers. They're like, boom, I'm going to hit you with the answer here. You said that? I was already thinking that, and I've got one more. And versus just going, all right, well, where the hell are they going to take me? I've been trying that more, because I'm much like you, Tony. I certainly feel that way, but I've had some great clinic experiences, like at Snowshoe this year, where I just literally would walk out there and go, all right, guys, what do you want to do? And we just start in a direction, and the direction builds and momentum builds. And, I would work things in and ideas in. We'd explore more of the mountain than I expected. They were some of the, it was just great moments, all by taking that step back and doing maybe what I think Mike was suggesting. And Mike, if I'm putting words in your mouth, I apologize. So.
But to that point, it would just be cool, because I just want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah.
Weren't you talking about the person that's learning, and Chris is talking about the person that's teaching? So
I started this all off with Dunning-Kruger, right? Confidence on one side versus experience on the other side. So the initial question was, watching that person come down the hill, we know personally if they were in a clinic with us, we wouldn't take them there, but they've decided to explore, because that's what snowboarding is. It's fun, exploration, go out, have a good time. And I just asked, was that on the confidence side or was that on the experiential side? All right. And then we kind of got into this known, unknown business that kind of came next. So just to circle back to the whole Dunning-Kruger thing, I just wanted to hit on the point that confidence trumps a lot of experience, 100%. If you don't have the confidence to try anything, all that experience doesn't even matter at the end of the day. So building on confidence should be our priority, especially when it comes to our learning as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
So even if you think you are somewhere or you don't think you are somewhere, training with confidence will keep you moving forward. So as soon as you put that experience in front of it and say, I don't know, the confidence is just going to go down the hill.
So are you suggesting that when you say confidence, is that like false confidence? Like you should just fake it and get through it with, some sense of inspiration like that beginner was?
Exactly. So there's going to be a whole variety that it kind of falls into. But what I'm saying is at the end of the day, a lot of us hold ourselves back because we sometimes don't have that blind faith in it and say, whatever, I'll just throw caution to the wind and give it a go.
Yeah, you call it blind faith. I call it arrogance, man. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
So standing in front of a group, sometimes we kind of like tone it back and be like, well, I don't want to fall in front of the group. I got a reputation to keep. I'm wearing a uniform. And we forget about that snowboarder that was just having some good turns on the wrong terrain, but they were having a blast.
It's interesting that you point that out, because earlier when Lynn asked me if I thought I was a good clinician, in this group, because I don't know everybody, and even the people that I know, I mean, it's even still pretty limited. I mean, Tony and I spent a bunch of time together. Mike, I've spent some time with you a little bit, and Chris is on the call. Like I know people some a little, but not so much where I feel totally free to be that confident. And I will tell you though that you're spot on. Like when I'm in an environment where I just sort of I completely trust myself. I think that is the best version of training, with me. And in the environments like a national team tryout or an exam environment, if I were in the exam, not giving the exam, but not proctoring it, but actually, in an exam, those environments are not confidence inspiring in that way. And walking into this group today to say, yes, I think I'm a good clinician, or no, I know I'm a good clinician. It's like, how do you say that without sounding like a complete jackass? And then going into a clinic, it's like, well, if they trust you, if the environment is right and you have all those things in place, it's so much easier to be that confident. And I think that's a tough one. Sorry.
I'm going to put a timeout on both of you two guys from talking anymore. I know that was great conversation and great debate. Lynn, I want to throw it back to you and then give some other people a chance to speak on this topic a little bit before you wrap it up.
Cool. So Dunning-Kruger effect. So it's cool to hear everybody at a higher level talk about how it's kind of intimidating sometimes in a group where you just need to be on and need to do something right away. And I've found the best way for me to get past it is just being more prepared, working with more people, getting to know more people, and just practicing. And as far as the person flying down the hill, like Mike was talking about, I sometimes fall into the Dunning-Kruger effect too in that way. We all do, and other things, like things that we're not very confident at. Like when I swim, I definitely fall into the unknown category. Does anyone else have anything to add? It's really quiet.
Nobody. Most people have gone AFK, it seems. Well, thanks, Lynn. That was awesome. Thanks for presenting that. That was sweet. It sparked some great debate, which was kind of cool. I like that. So,
guys, if anyone has any feedback, I'm still working through it. This is going to be my RMT clinic for the 2021 season. If anyone has any feedback for it.
Tony is rubbing his hands together evilly. Chris, you just came on the screen. Do you have any thoughts on Dunning-Kruger or this?
Yeah, I just want to cycle back to what Chris and Tony were talking about. No, I'm joking. No, Lynn, this was a good evolution of the last time I saw you present this, and I think you've got some great content you're working with here. It's a cool model, both the Johari's window and the Dunning-Kruger effect, and all the other acronyms and words we can throw in there. But it's a good additional way to look at things and think about things, and it's been awesome just hearing people share their reflections and stories and how life experiences and exams fit into these models.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Dana?
I love this topic. This is something I think about quite often because I've been involved not only in the snowboarding realm, but I was on track to become an orchestral musician for the rest of my life. So I have a lot of experience with this in a totally different realm of like going to auditions and thinking I did really poorly and then making principal like flutist and being like, how did that happen? And times where I thought I did really well and like didn't even make the first cut. So I am more keen on learning how to develop that like self-reflection, because like you've explained the model and like the different mentalities that a person can be in, but I don't seem to be able to be adapting this to my own snowboarding because I continuously show up for exams that I'm like, oh, I think I did pretty well with that, fail, or oh, I don't know if I like pass that one, pass, like I'm just not getting it, and I want to know how to develop that in my own writing. So if you could like maybe develop that aspect of this topic of like how to develop that more in a person, I would find that really helpful.
I'll let Lynn respond and then go ahead, Mike, after that.
The way I came up with this clinic is because I've been studying metacognition a lot. And the way to get better at metacognition is to practice it. So for example, practice assessing yourself. Check with someone to see if what you're seeing in your head of yourself is correct. And then go back and keep working until the image matches what people are seeing. Or till the image in your head matches what people are seeing.
Mike, does that line up with you, or did you have a different thought?
No, I'm gonna piggyback off that one because I find this a lot in clinics. People just have some sort of image or expectation that they've already set themselves. So I'm gonna circle back with the question that you asked us at the beginning. Where do you find yourself within this process? How far along are you with regards to sitting your RMT? What are the strengths and weaknesses that you've uncovered over this last season?
Well, Tony and Chris can let me know if I'm accurate or not. I'm I'm pretty confident in my MA and my clinic leading. I'm still going to work on them because I don't want strengths to become a weakness. What I've been really working on is my riding. And I've been kind of just below the level. Last time I took it, I think I got 3s on just about everything, if not everything. So I've been working on assessing where I'm at with each task and assessing where I need to be by comparing myself to other people. I've gotten videos of a bunch of high-end riders doing just anything. It doesn't matter what task they're doing. I'm looking at the movements they're making and the body parts they're using to make the movements. So like, for example, when I make my toe to heel turn, at the finish of my toe turn, since I'm so aft at the end of the toe turn, my option that I use is I make a slight extension movement, mostly out of my back knee and back ankle, to be able to get more forward to initiate that turn. So I was looking at everybody moving, and some people use their lower spine and make like a huge flexion movement like this. Some people use their upper spine. Some people get down lower and shift using their femurs. And everybody makes different movements. And by figuring out what movements work for me and assessing whether I'm doing them accurately by getting video of myself once they become mature movements, that's allowing me to help working towards the ride.
Spot on. I like that answer a lot. The question to kind of counter that question is, have you thought about training outside of the box? Not training to the tasks. And I like how you used, it's more of a movement pattern to get those tasks to fall in line. But have you thought about doing other things to break up those patterns so they don't become, a one-way street? Because at the beginning of the day, we all snowboard for having a little bit of fun. Can you incorporate that to take it to the next level then?
So that's what this year was. I didn't go for my RMT. Well, I wasn't planning on going for my RMT exam this year. I was focusing on just riding and doing things and trying new things and riding with new people and making different movements, doing things I'm not always comfortable with, and seeing how I can apply the movements to the places where I'm not comfortable, and making everything work together. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what the tasks are. It's how I can move and how I can adjust to whatever I need to be able to do.
So I want to just tie that back to Brennan's presentation, because I feel like Brennan missed out a huge component on his presentation with regards to, he talked about his weaknesses with regards to his physique and how it all worked. But also got to remember what his accomplishments came with, knowing how his body moved, what his strengths and weaknesses were that came with that physique of his. So having you reply that way really ties the two together, and then this becomes more of a learning circle for all of us, understanding we all have these hurdles that we have to jump over or get under to get to the next level, and it takes a bit of everything. There's not one path to get there. There's a broad understanding, and I really like the answers that you gave us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for all your comments and participation. That was awesome, and feedback.
And that is one of the main reasons we're having these great tech talks on a myriad of different subjects. So thank you, Lynn, for setting this up. So we'll wrap this up here. Do you want to have any final comments there, Lynn?
On my topic or overall?
On your topic.
I think I pretty much covered it all. Basically, to overcome the Dunning-Kruger effect, keep learning and practicing. Dana, that's what we were talking about. Ask other people how you're doing. It's not all us, and we don't have to do it alone. We have so much help, and it's pointless not to ask and use it and share with other people. And then question what you know and challenge your beliefs and ideas and expectations. That's what's going to allow you to improve. Maybe the movement that you're making, that you're supposed to be making, isn't the best movement you can make to perform what you need to perform, or to make the actual movement you need to make.
Cool.
Fun, people.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you very much, Lynn, for presenting. Thanks to Cody and Chandler as well for presenting tonight.